So you've made a distinction, I think, between being buyer driven and what many brands like to tout, which is we're customer centric. We're a customer centric brand. So where do you see the difference between being buyer driven and having a buyer driven strategy and being customer centric happening?
I think buyer driven is really interesting because what I'm trying to do is get people away from product driven. And so what we tend to know best are our products. And so everything revolves around a product feature and how the product is going to fix your problem and all of this kind of stuff. But yet we're not relating to our buyers and helping them gain confidence, helping them learn more and speaking to them on that human level. So one of the things that makes this also a great opportunity for marketing is with all the self-driven stuff, the self-serving content and all the rest of it, is they're pushing salespeople way back in the process. And so marketing can no longer just sit there and say, okay, we got all these form fills. Now you have all these leads that you can go after. We have to actually participate throughout the entirety of the process to keep them moving forward. And one of the biggest challenges I see in all the reports is marketers are confused or challenged to create content for the different stages of the buying process. And mostly it's because we're not connecting the dots. It's like what I teach in workshops is think about what's the first question that your buyer has. Let's just say they're looking, saying, why should I care about solving this problem? What difference does it make to me? And then you give them content that tells them that, and they read it and they think, huh, that's interesting. Okay, so what about what's the next thing? Given what you've just told them and that takeaway that they have from it, now what does it open up for them to ask? And so, one of the things that we don't think about is how context shifts. So, before something, you don't have an opinion about it. Once you learn it, then you're able to say, well, that's really interesting. But now that makes me wonder about X. So, how do we build that chain where they continue on this journey of learning because we're answering questions that are relevant to them, giving them information that makes them think about new things they hadn't thought about before, and then opens up that space for them to say, okay, so how are companies like ours handling that problem? Really? Well, how long did it take them to implement? Or what challenges did they face along the way? Or whatever, however these things go together. You have to build the story almost linearly because you need to make sure it all fits together. But the way that you link it and distribute it and whatever that allows people to step into the story and then figure out what are the other pieces are missing of it and connect those dots is important. And that seems to be a challenge for a lot of companies, but it's also driven by this executive thing like, well, what's our theme for Q2? And it's like, okay, wait a minute. A quarter is 3 months, your buy cycle is 8 months, and now we're supposed to stop doing whatever we're doing and come up with a new theme and campaign for Q2. And we just got people interested in the beginning of the story. No, we need to keep telling the story. It seems to be an executive thing where it's like, okay, what's our new theme for Q2? And it's like, why do we need a new theme? Well, because everybody's bored with it because they've all seen it. Well, yeah, your buyers haven't. They haven't gotten all the way through it. So I find myself fighting these battles and constantly trying to figure out how do we keep everybody focused on. We need to keep people engaged through the whole thing. Now, that doesn't mean you can't put out new pieces of things that are interesting, but tie them back into the story. How are we going to get people back into the story? So it's just a different way of thinking about it. It's not about the content, it's about the story, the process. What did buyers have to go through to be able to buy? And so everything has to tie to that. And a lot of times it feels like it's chuck the box. Okay, we got a white paper out the door this quarter. Now we need a webinar and okay, a few blog posts and let's run some ads and get some downloads. And why are you doing it? What's the point?
Right. We have to get back to purpose. I am with you. I usually visualize this sort of story as an expanding tree, but then you have the merchandising and the connecting of it out there in the experience that your buyer is having, which you don't have as much control of as maybe we once thought we did. But there it functions as a network. It's a network effect. So it's 5-dimensional. They have to be able to come in and out. But if the content's there, it's there. And I think that gets back to the value of always on content creation, sustained storytelling, and evergreen content. Because to your point, it's getting so caught up in production, the production mindset, and we're not delivering a campaign, then what are we doing? Because we need to drive this like spike. But how can you instead build a sustainable growth pattern by compounding the effect of your content? And then maybe you have spikes in between, but you're not centralizing everything around spikes. But I think it's really interesting the way you frame the buyer experience reminds me of that internal versus external view. And when we were first doing website building, and everybody thought your homepage was the page. And then it turns out people are landing on article pages most of the time because then it was like the effective SEO, and that's their first experience. So, where are you taking them from the article page? And we still see marketers struggling sort of with the concept because it's like, no, but we built the homepage to be the place that they land on. Well, you don't have that control over what they're gonna use and which way they're gonna use it.